When the bishop was here a couple weeks ago, she spoke a bit about our recent clergy conference. At that conference, the presenter was a priest who is also a scientist, and he spoke about three orientations or modes through which people primarily interact with the world and act in the world. One of those he identified with scientists, and it involves a kind of open exploration of things. A second mode, which he associated with pastors, primarily involves relationships and attention to relationships. And a third mode, spoken of as the main approach taken by engineers, centers on problem solving. And his point was that it was important to understand these differences when we, as pastors, try to share the gospel message with so many engineering types in a diocese that includes Silicon Valley. Now, there were quite a few clergy there who are also engineers, and I think that they found his presentation a little bit condescending, because scientists were clearly kind of at the top, and I found it that way a little bit as well. But I'll probably get in more trouble with engineers here this morning because I see the tempter, the devil, Satan, in our story about the temptation of Jesus in the wilderness, as primarily acting in a problem-solving mode. The problems that are dealt with here are really on two levels. They are, first of all, the personal, historical, biblical problems that Jesus faced at the time of his wilderness retreat, just after his baptism, after receiving the call from God to enter into active ministry. But on another level, these are universal problems of human existence that arise for all of us from the condition of self-aware fallenness described in the reading from Genesis. I'm going to talk about these temptations. The first temptation, to turn stones into bread, addressed Jesus' need for food, and more generally, his need for the satisfaction of physical desires and requirements. Jesus knew at some level, I think it's assumed in this story, that he didn't really have to be hungry. He didn't have to accept the limits that human physical existence carries with it. He could have used his special gifts, Satan assumes, as the Son of God, not to say magical powers, to just make the problem go away. Although by doing that, he would have broken the connection between divine and human being that was the central theme and meaning of his life. Now, we as a species have come up with all kinds of solutions to the problems that come with our natural state, with our life as vulnerable bodies in a challenging and sometimes quite inhospitable world. We've far surpassed fig leaf aprons. We've invented all kinds of labor-saving devices to solve our problems of physical deprivation or any discomfort, really. More people eat more food produced by fewer people than ever before. Fewer people suffer from illness, and people live longer with innovations that were undreamt of 100 years ago, or 50 years ago, or 20 years ago. But our solutions have often brought on as many problems as they've solved, and they've cut us off more and more from a sense of living in the natural world, further and further from the memory of Eden. Chemical fertilizers pollute the environment. All the farmland that has been reclaimed, as it's said, from forests and jungles has depleted the Earth's oxygen supply, while carbon dioxide produced through all our systems changes the climate in significant ways. Industrial agriculture spreads disease and keeps millions of animals in terrible conditions. Genetic modification may open Pandora's box, if it hasn't already. There's a commercial for Panera Bread restaurant that asks, when did food plus non-food or not food become food? Stones into bread. Just sowing fig leaves doesn't seem to solve the problem, if solving the problem is what this is all about. And Jesus knew that it wasn't that simple. You cannot live by bread alone. Real hunger, the real need for human being is deeper than that. It's more complex than that.